A very pleasant morning to all. On behalf of the Entrepreneurship Cell of Ethiraj College for Women, I welcome you all to the day one session of the webinar Higher Education, the rootstock of Women Empowerment and Entrepreneurship on occasion of Women's Entrepreneurship Day. Women's Entrepreneurship Day is being celebrated on 19th November annually since 2014. It seeks to empower 4 billion women in this planet. It commemorates the remarkable achievements of women in the field of entrepreneurship. So, this day drives inside all of us the need to uplift women of underprivileged sections of the society and enable them to be financially independent. This webinar seeks to educate young women upon the current business scenario and the various opportunities it offers in the world outside. We are honored to have in our midst renowned women entrepreneurs as our guest speakers for the webinar. Education needs to be emphasized upon as it gives women a path to pursue their goals and interests. It catapults women into a newer and more opportunistic world where they can be self reliant. So, now I request our faculty coordinator, Ms. Rajalakshmi, to welcome the guest speaker for the day.
Pleasant morning. On behalf of the Entrepreneurship Cell of Ethiraj College for Women, I welcome you all to the day one of international webinar titled Higher Education, the Rootstock of Women Empowerment and Entrepreneurship. Women Entrepreneurs Day sets the tone that women can equally contribute to the economic growth, innovation, and sustainable development. An entrepreneur is not a person who just dream about success, but one who constantly work for it and achieve it. I'm indeed honored to render my heartfelt welcome to one such achiever, Ms.Priya Gautham, partner at Two Trees and Cretium Business Solutions, Deputy Director at Virginia Tech, and Chief Marketing Officer at 3i Infotech as our eminent guest speaker of the day. Ms. Priya Gautham is a marketing, management, and strategy professional with 22 years of multifaceted experience that includes setting up new businesses as well as startups to scale up expertise in small, medium, and large enterprise. Her experience extends to working in India, US, UK, and Singapore. She played a critical role in setting up EduCity in Chennai and now is a strategic consultant director for education at Virginia Tech, India. Out of her work schedule, she finds time to play an active role as an ambassador for Chennai. She leads tech, an initiative of Facebook and few startups as a director. She has been featured in 100 MSME inspirational stories released by the Honorable Minister Nitin Gadkari in May 2020. She is also in the National Board of Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, FLO, Startup Cell. We are so happy to have a person of such caliber amongst us today and looking forward to hear from you. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Rajalakshmi. That was a wonderful introduction early in the morning. So, good morning. I should not call you ladies, I should call you girls, young women, young entrepreneurs, I should say. So, I'm really happy to be here and thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Priya Gautham, as Rajalakshmi just introduced. Before I start off my conversation today, I always think and ask, why are we here and what are we doing and what are we communicating to the people at large? So the topic today is about entrepreneurship, and I really wanted to, sort of deep dive and wonder, how entrepreneurship is actually, is it a DNA or is it something that is inborn for a person or is it an instinct? That's something we'll know by the end of this presentation. Can I have the slides, please? So if you're all up and about early in the morning today, I want to just, see show of hands on the comments saying that I'm here so that I know you guys are here listening to me today. So I thought I'll put a small little PowerPoint presentation because it's important that whenever we speak, most of it sort of, gets communicated visually when I put a slide and of course talk around that. Next slide, please. I wanted to, quote a small little quote from Warren Buffett, and I'm sure everybody knows who Warren Buffett is. So he says, it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. And if you think about it, you'll do things differently. So I think we're all between 18 to 20 years right now. And last few years, you've been in the learning phase. You've been, um, constantly equipping yourself to what you want to do in the next 40, 50, 60 years in your life. So if you think of all that and if you think differently, you can be an entrepreneur or you can do what you want. But just think about it and say, I should do things differently. And with that note, I would like to start my presentation today. So basically, as an entrepreneur, I thought you should know the concept behind what it means to be an entrepreneur, what is entrepreneurship and an enterprise. So if you look at an entrepreneur, the outcome of that is just nothing but a person. So a person is an entrepreneur. A person is somebody who's driving the business to what they want to hear or what they want to do in future. The process of doing whatever business that you're doing is called entrepreneurship. And of course, the outcome, which is what you set up as an enterprise, is something that is called as a business outcome. So between these three, so individuals have to start off being first think about how I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Now, it's again something which is not forced, it is something which has to come from within. So, if you feel the urge to do something different, that is why I quoted Warren Buffett, then you will become an entrepreneur. So, it is something that I cannot say, hey, be an entrepreneur today, but just be something that you want to do things differently. From there, how do I become how do I create this business? How do I go and get myself registered as an, as an organization or as a company or as an LLP or as a private limited company? And what am I going to sell? Whom am I going to sell? Who's my partners? Who are the people who's my target segment? All these comes under the process of thinking. So you create a map of what you want to do as a business to be successful, and that becomes an enterprise. So I think if we get these fundamentals right, it becomes very easy for all of you to think in these lines of, um, first of all, an idea. That is why, the idea should be whose problem are we solving. From there, how are we solving is the process. And then you set up an organization. So this is the concept. If you all understand this well, it's a very, very important but a thought-provoking concept itself that one should know if you have to be an entrepreneur. The next slide, please. I wanted to also talk about the purpose of why one should be an entrepreneur or why should I do this. I could be happily sitting at home doing nothing and earn the laurels of what my parents are doing or what my partner would be doing or somebody else would be doing. But why should I be an entrepreneur? If that is going to be the purpose, then I think you're not an entrepreneur. So, for an entrepreneur, you need to have a purpose, you need to have a goal, you need to have a zeal to do something different. So, I thought it'll be good for me to just highlight few of these pointers, which probably will be a thought provoking, purposeful insights into what you should be doing if you want to be an entrepreneur. So, first of all, a positive change to the society is not possible without the cultivation of a thoughtful leader. If there were no entrepreneurs, we wouldn't have had innovations. If there was no innovations, we wouldn't have had a very easy life. Today, at the press of a button on your mobile phone, you're able to get things to your home. That's nothing but a purpose that somebody wanted to do something different and to offer to the other people in the world, and then it becomes an enterprise. So if you look at that purpose itself, it is slightly different, that how can I make the change and how the society would benefit. So the second point that I wanted to bring about here is a mission, inspiring and preparing to turn their passion and ideas into action. Now, you're all students, you're all in your final year, second year, first year. I'm assuming most of you have entered into this knowledge gaining age wherein you want to get more equipped with what I have to do in future. So with that as a mission, you actually would probably foster some ideas. Maybe it could be with your friends, with people who inspire you. These are all things that would happen as the day goes, or as the years go, as the time goes. So the mission should be that I should be able to inspire my future, inspire myself, and inspire the society at large to make sure that we have more such businesses to come. Then comes the create. Create is nothing but you sort of unleash your productivity, whether it could be a passion to a purpose, or a vision that can become an innovation. So all these are something that is coming within your creative genes. Now again, as I said before, it is not something that I can say that you are an entrepreneur and you become one. It doesn't happen that way. It has to come from within. If that has to come from within, you have to think that, am I ready for this kind of a journey that I'm planning to take? Am I the risk taker? Am I the person who's chosen to be taking this path in my life? So that is something which I call as create. Of course, the entrepreneurial adventure, or entrepreneurial mindset will always make you a future leader, because you are leading the pack. You are actually creating something very different to the world, to yourself, and to the people who believe in you. So you also become a future leader. So when you think of those um, probably five different aspects that I spoke about in terms of your purpose, you will rightfully choose a right kind of skill set to enable what you want to do as a business, or as a, to invent the future. I would say that you don't have to be thinking of something very high end, but even if you're able to solve a small little problem, you're still making that difference. I'll come back to the next slide, which is a very interesting, uh, you know, uh, I would say a little thought process, but it went into disrupting the world. The next slide, please. So these are some of the disruptions in the industry which has happened, and I want you all to type on the comment section if you know the answers for this. Okay, let me put the first question. The largest car company doesn't own any cars. Any guesses? I want you all to answer, because I know that you're not sleeping with your eyes open, but it is also something which we have to open our eyes and see what was this that made it a different industry altogether. A largest movie screening company doesn't own a theater. Do you know the answer for this? A largest homestay doesn't own a single hotel. A largest communication company doesn't own a phone. And lastly, a homegrown, largest food chain industry doesn't own a restaurant. I really want the organizers to open up the comment section, because I really want to see what answers I get for these, because it's important to know whether do we know these disruptions around us? Have we even felt that? Have we even seen that? Okay, since I don't see any chat or the comments coming, the largest car company doesn't own any car is none other than the Uber and the Olas. Did you know that? They don't own a single car, but they run on a platform, but they manage cars. Similarly, if you look at the largest movie screening company doesn't own a single theater, none other than the time that we spent during the pandemic watching this all the time. Netflix, Amazon Prime, these are all Netflix, of course, the first company which came. Now, if I had to think that an individual would always go to a theater, I wouldn't have come out with an innovation like this, or Netflix wouldn't have been the inventor for the role that they're playing in terms of democratizing the movie industry to be more on a desktop or on a television channel. So that's how the disruption has happened with Netflix, or any of the OTT platforms that you see. And the third comes, the largest homestay doesn't own any single hotel. Do you all know this? Very, very interesting, but it is none other than Airbnb. Do you know that they own any hotels? No. They actually created an entire framework wherein house owners can list their properties for rentals for homestay. If I have to go from here to say Jammu and Kashmir, I don't have to take any hotel right now, but look for Airbnb homes there, homestay. So that way I'm able to imbibe the culture, talk to the locals. I'm able to sort of absorb the entire journey of what I'm trying to do with my vacations. The next one is, of course, the largest communication company doesn't own a phone. Did you all know this? I think we're using the platforms called Zoom. We also use the platform called um, and the telephone companies, Skype. I don't know if you all have used it any time, but these are the companies which had no phone, but they made voice over IP, that is internet. Yeah, Apple is a phone. Yes, thanks. But this is a communication channel that has been made again to be accessible to every individual. So they have made sure that we are all able to talk to people near and dear from across the world, across continents, with just an internet connection. Last one, of course, is the food chain industry, which doesn't own a restaurant. You all know, I'm sure you all are ordering from there. Swiggy, guys, that's Swiggy doesn't even own a single restaurant. Now they're considering to have cloud kitchens. But look at the kind of disruptions that they bought in our lives to make sure that we have very, very comfortable life doing or using all these services. There are many, many such large innovations that have happened. Recent one from India is the Paytm. It is a complete, innovation in fintech. I think the entire pandemic we were all using GPay, Paytm. So banks have been a situation of the past. We never went to a bank throughout this time. So that's how India has moved in terms of their ability to disrupt in fintech area. It would have been very, very difficult, but sometimes certain things happen for some other innovation to happen. And I'm sure there are a lot of new ventures that have started during the pandemic, which has been a time. Which has been a time to rethink, rebuild, reskill, and say, can I retarget the people whom I know? And that is how a lot of businesses have come. Next slide, please. So let's come to disruptions in learning. So you all have been probably consumption or consumers of this. So we call it the MOOC model. Basically, MOOC is nothing but the models collaborating with the universities. So here, when you look at the way education itself is democratized, is that I'm able to go and learn what I want to from Upgrad or Byju's or Khan Academy, Topper, and Simply Learn. Especially when we went through the pandemic, these institutions really sprung up even more stronger. Did we ever think that we would learn in a session where it is completely online? And today, when we're doing a webinar, it's completely online. In a regular scenario, it would have been face to face. I would be talking to an audience of whatever number that we're talking today to more interact with them. But with the advent of technology, with the advent of disruptions that is happening in every area of life, learning is also being democratized, and we see that a lot of these companies are creating content which are very useful. These are not a substitute to the teacher, but it is a substitute for us to enhance our learning. So I thought it is important that we all know that disruption is the way to go in terms of understanding new developments, understanding how we can do some things differently, and how we can reach to the market. Next slide, please. So the next point that I want to talk about is the types of entrepreneurs. So everybody is not wired or not born to be an entrepreneur. So the three characteristics that I've mentioned here are nothing but a creator, the builder, and the operator. So the creator is somebody who is like Brahma. He created human beings. He put life into that. So the creator is not none other than the person who has an idea, who's created that particular business for somebody to take it and build it and then to operate it. So these are the three different kinds of types of entrepreneurs. So one of you can fall into any of these bucket. At the same time, you can still be proud to say that you have done one of this. So let's take an example of what is a creator. A creator is somebody who has an idea. Now, from that idea, you need somebody who can execute it, but you do not know how to execute. So you might find a partner who could be the builder. The builder is somebody who says, hey, I have a technology, I have the wherewithal to do what you're talking about as a form of an ideation, and then I will go to the next person who's an operator, who is going to enable me to do what I have created. So if you look at these are all interlinked, but at the same time you are a pack. The pack is not single, but it is a group of people who can come together, do things differently. So, this is an important step in understanding where you belong to and identify the right kind of business which suits your passion, which suits your DNA and which suits you as an individual to be able to continue and be making that difference to the society, to yourself and to your parents and to the the humankind at large. The next slide. So the importance is something. I mean, I don't want to read what is here, but it is important that when an entrepreneur thinks about doing something different, you have to have the skill and a knowledge to come with the business idea and develop into your own venture. The reason why we do that is, see, I cannot say I have an idea, but sit back and see if somebody will come and help me. No, it doesn't happen that way. You have to dirty your hands, you have to get into the game, you have to roll up your sleeves and see how will I get into this and see the end in terms of how do I create a venture which is successful, which also means that you need to know how to do your financials, how to manage the accountings, how do you do your sales, how do you acquire your customer. All these things are very important. Also, how do you effectively communicate to whom you want to reach? So, that is a very important aspect in yours. So, I don't expect everybody to be perfect in their financial accounting or in managing people, but you sort of seek help from people who have expertise in this and they become your the builder. That is what I told in the previous slide. The other thing that one should understand here is the students and the learners from different social and economic backgrounds, they all have different strengths. So they all come together and with their unique skills and then offer a solution. So that is something that you might want to foster when you're in an institution such as what you're, and pick your partners or pick the people whom you would like to work. It should be that I should have a great quality to sort of imbibe, first of all, to attract the talent that is around me. Then with them, can I build what I want to build as an organization? So you have to identify all these things. And that is where a leader becomes very critical in identifying these things. And also, you should not be feeling shy or feeling a little lost to ask for help. You should please go and ask for help if you do not know. There are a lot of organizations which help you to create this kind of idea to ideation and to grow from there. So there are accelerators, there are entrepreneurship cells, there are many bodies like Tai Chennai, Fiki Flow. All these bodies are there to help individual startups to sort of get to the next level. There you can identify whom you want to connect with in terms of mentor, in terms of resources where I should go. How do I trademark? How do I go and register my company? How do I create my website? How do I talk to the market? All these things, there are different partners who play a role in terms of how to make your product more successful, more visible, more seen, and more in tune with what is the guidelines given by the Ministry of Commerce. So I thought these are important things that one should know, that business is one, but you should also know nuances to start the business. How would you do it? Where would you do it? Who are the people? What are the statutory norms? All these things are important for you all to know before you start venturing into making this an enterprise. So a lot of people say, I want to do it from home. Yes, you can do it from home, but when you want to scale, you should know, when I scale, what should be the next step. So these are, I would consider, legal, financial, compliance, statutory. These are important things that you should remember when you are setting up your business. Next slide, please. So you'd have seen there are a lot of success stories, and I've just named a few because it's important that you know you have a leader to follow, but at the same time you are a leader yourself. So if you look at the success stories of few of these companies which I put here, easily each of them are a unique business idea which has come, and and today they are the unicorns. I mean, at least a few of them. So if you take Nika, I think most of you would have heard the person who started Falguni was a banker, but then she had a passion to do something different. So she used technology as a tool to ensure that the company is doing what it is doing best, aggregating products which are of utmost importance to women, and then being able to put a platform wherein everyone can buy what you want, come what may. Each one can filter their choices and then go and buy the products in this particular platform. I think before this, there were physical stores where you could go and buy, but we were not having access to everything. So, what is the disruption here? The disruption is simply putting a platform together, aggregating the many brands that we have in the industry, also come out with their own brands and be able to sell to people. Now, when you look at this, or when she would have started this, it was not that she looked at just a particular region, but she looked at the whole country, the whole continent as their customers. And so the size of it is as big as what you think today it should have been. So that way, if you look at a problem that you think, when I say whose problem are we solving, we should always think about how are we solving the entire world's problem. And then you become hyper focused and hyper local to begin with. So the proof of concept is nothing but a hyper focused market, wherein you see that I can do it within my 25-kilometer radius. But when I have to go and expand, you look at 2,500 or 25,000 or 250,000 meters away. So that way you're able to democratize and think that this is how I need to conquer the market, and this is how the best product can reach to various people. The next brand that I is also emerging is in the beauty space, but it's slightly a different kind of a concept. It is juicy chemistry. This founder story is very inspiring, and if you get an opportunity, please do go and Google them and look them up as to how they started it. It's a bootstrapped startup based in none other city than the Coimbatore city of, from south. And they're a couple, husband and wife. Both of them were having different lines of business. How they thought about creating an organic, um, uh, you know, make a brand. And today it's going to be another big revolution in the industry that they are looking into. So interestingly, I did interview them just a few months ago, and I realized that when they started, they did not have much money to start this, but they had the passion. They knew that they were going to make it big, and they continue to do that. They want to be very ethical in their business. They want to do something very, very unique, and that is why each of their products do come out very differently. The next one, of course, is your story, Shraddha. If you look at why she wanted to do this, is very simple. She wanted to take the stories of all startups and create a entrepreneurship business of her own. And today, the most successful medium through which all the new startups communicate their wins in this particular channel. Again, a story which is differently written, nothing very different, but we were looking at newspapers, articles, magazines, but this became an online tool for new startups to initiate their thought process in terms of getting featured in the channel called Your Story. The fourth company I'm talking about is Zest Money. Now, Zest Money is very interesting. Again, it is something that they have, thought about loaning to individuals who would want to quickly take loans from not the bank, but an easy loan with just simple documentation. Now, Zest Money is tied up with various institutions, various, including colleges, including companies which are into education, and even your e-commerce products, wherein the quick loan system is being introduced, and this particular product has actually been very well absorbed in the recent past as well. The last one, very interesting. Again, it's called the Little Black Book. So the person who started that is Sudita, who just thought that what is there that I can showcase about my city, and slowly her blogs became very, very popular, and it became so popular that people started following her, and so it became a revenue generator. And then she looked at how I can expand it to other cities as well. So a small little thought which can spark into a big large business is something every success story is, having. So in order to uh, understand, these are all the success stories, but you'd also notice that there are many stories which are not successful. So one should know that business, when you do, is not about success, but it is about resilience. It's about how you do it, and if you're doing it right way, you could be successful. But there's also many stories which are not successful, but one should know that this is the flip side of what I want to be. So that is when I would want to show the next slide. So if you look at failed startups, I wanted to put this because always we hear good things, right? So we should also know there are things that have not gone well. I won't say bad, but things that have not got well. Some of them got revived, some of them have not. So if you look at India, it's the third largest ecosystem for startups, which means that uh, at least about every you know maybe 100th person or something is an entrepreneur in their own way. I'm not sure, but 80 to 90% of the Indian startups fail within the first 5 years inception. This is a study, and I cannot contradict this anymore. But there are so many of them who started, but because of sustainability, because of not being able to continue their vision to values to an enterprise, people have failed. So these are some of the things you will find this mostly on the net, and not very well known, but some of them are known and they also have failed, like for example Jabong, or you would have heard about Jabong, Kidsy, Kiozi, sorry, not Kidsy. So these are some of the companies that have not really made it big to the unicorn status, but probably because of certain challenges that they had, which I've listed here. Is about, some could have been delivery issues, some could have been the commerce issues, some could have been technology issues, some could have been logistics. All these things could have been reasons. So it is important that we tie in what we want for a business. If my business is in e-commerce, I need to really have a robust site, I need to have logistics in place, I need to have the right kind of products and right kind of delivery time. This is simple, but yet at the same time must, and a hygiene factor for any organization to think when they have to grow. The next slide, please. So, like I mentioned, a lot of startups fail because one, there's lack of innovation. Some of them are lack of focus. Some of them lack of the market fit, lack of leadership. Some partners fight, the whole business gets closed. Some of them, the business model itself is a failure. Some of them lack the competency and talent, and some of them who ignore your customers, that is doomed to fail. Customer is your prime importance. Who's your customer to whom you're selling? If you don't take care of your customers, you're doomed to fail. So it's important that we sort of round fence ourselves or ring fence ourselves in terms of being very innovative, have the right kind of funding, watch your expenses, be bootstrapped, have knowledge about how do I address a challenge in future, or go ask for help. Think differently, have an agility in your business, saying that if this fails, what can I do to make it happen? Sometimes that instinctive business acumen really helps in going over certain challenges. So I just thought these are important things that one should remember. Next slide, please. Somebody this morning when I was discussing, saying that I am talking to a budding young women who are looking to enter the journey of being an entrepreneur. So he said, what is a characteristic of an entrepreneur? Can you just describe? So I thought about it. At that moment, I said yes. They definitely, you can make out that he or she is a future entrepreneur by looking at few characteristics. So one is, first of all, curiosity. The curiosity is very, very important. If you're not curious, you'll never go deep into that. Decisiveness, you should be able to make that decision. You should be able to stand by your decision. You should be a team builder. You should have risk tolerance ability. If you're not taking risk, that means you're not in business. You can sit in a comfort of being paid for in a salaried job, and you can do all that you want. And these are things that we look at. I mean, when investors look also, they all look at these sort of characteristics for investing in that particular independent entrepreneur or a firm which has got partners who have got zeal to do something different. Persistence, never give up. Even if you lose, doesn't matter, you just don't give up. So that is called persistence. This is again a very, very strong characteristics that comes for an entrepreneur. Resilience, resilience to fear, resilience to do something different, strong. All these are very, very, very important characteristics for an entrepreneur. Please don't forget that being all having all these things are difficult, but you also sort of develop these things in period of time. You also become that person who's curious, who's wanting to know. And I'll tell you one more thing which I heard from many successful entrepreneurs: you don't have to know everything. If you know and identify the right team, you can build your enterprise. So please ensure that when you do anything, please identify the right team. The team that does not stand together does not work together. Simple. So remember these mantras, and yeah. So these are some of the characteristics of an entrepreneur. The next slide. Okay, so finally I come to my story. I wanted to put this slide here and looked at the world from the top. And this is my skydiving slide when I did it a few years ago, just before I turned into an entrepreneur. I must be honest and tell you that I was not an entrepreneur by birth. I was not an entrepreneur by a student. I was not an entrepreneur at all. I didn't have a vision. I didn't have a story. I didn't have a thought process of what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. Such was my upbringing, such was my knowledge. And I also have to tell you, internet was not there when I was born. So a lot of these things act as catalysts for you to change, for you to think differently, and to do what you want to do. So I grew up in a family very comfortable, not to worry about three meals, not to worry about anything that I wanted. So I was very happy. I didn't want to push myself at all. I was very happy, finished my studies, enjoyed my life as a student, played, did whatever masti that I wanted to do. Then I got married, and it's the end of the story. Now, when did this happen of being an entrepreneur? Or when did this happen to me that I have to do something different? It just happened when I realized that I was getting overly burdened by the corporate life that I led. I was overly burdened by doing some work for somebody else. Then I thought, why can't I do it for myself? Then I had this fear. If I have the fear, I can never do because there was nobody who was supporting me because nobody from my family was an entrepreneur. Then I joined an organization to understand where I can find people who inspire me, people who can tell me, go ahead, Priya, you can do it. I looked at people like that for me to get that courage to do what I want to do. The first thing that I did was, I had this fear of heights. I had this fear of doing anything which is challenging. So, why did I do this? For me to prove a point that when I do something from my comfort zone, how I feel, the ecstasy, the dream, and the power that I was getting to do something very different is just the feeling. I can't even tell, today, or tell you to express that. It is just a feeling. So when I did this skydiving in Australia, I came back and there's a video of this if you're interested. I felt so liberated. I felt so different, and I said, "This is where I should start my journey as an entrepreneur." So I started my journey as an entrepreneur way back in 2015 when I left my corporate job, paying very well, lived in the US, worked there, worked for the best companies, was a successful, individual. I got awards for being the best in sales or best in marketing, whatever. I had so many awards for myself. That didn't satisfy me. I think I had a calling, which is very late. The calling came only when I was almost like 35 plus almost 40 years when I started that. So that's when I looked at what is my passion, what can I do differently. And nothing which was a catalyst for me was the previous company that I worked. Many of them as entrepreneurs would come and present their story for an investment. I realized that most of them didn't have a story to talk. They didn't have a compelling need to convince me that there's money that I can put in. No, it didn't really work. I would You wouldn't imagine, but I would do like 200 or 300 PowerPoints beyond the number of days that we are having in a month of new ideas that came and see how it fits in. That's when it sort of hit me saying that I think I'm much better than this. I really do not know, but I should try. I should do something which is what I know best. So we started a small little company, which is a consulting company. And I thought I can be the inspiration to a lot of people who would like to be a startup like me. And we started a consulting company. So after starting a consultant company, we thought who would fund businesses. So we went to certain venture capital fund houses, few other people here and there to find out how we can sort of raise money for doing something that we want to do. I'm telling you, it was the most difficult time. I was not getting the money that I was getting all these years. So I had to live on my reserves to make sure that I'm able to uh, you know, still live my dream, yet at the same time, not dry out my fund, which I kept aside for the business. So then there was an idea that came saying that can we create an atmosphere where many such startups can come and work with us so that we can all collaborate? So that was the time we thought about our co-working space. The first one that we started in Chennai in Alvarpet, it's called Two Trees Workspaces. So if you look at that, the DNA of that particular business was many businesses in one business. So if you look at me as an individual, I don't have an office. I don't have a place where I can go sit and, ideate with other people, with like-minded people. So we created an ambience of having this workspace where they could all come, they collaborate, and they also co-work and form businesses. So that was my first business. I would say it was a moderately successful business. We wanted to expand with. I have a partner. We wanted to expand to many such co-working spaces. But yeah, obviously every business has got a growth story, and some businesses you don't look at growth stories, so you think about it very differently. So we decided that fine, we will do what we can, and then came the pandemic, and things have changed. Yeah, things are looking different today in terms of what we are doing. But yes, like I said, during the pandemic, that is when the resilience kicks in. What would you do to save your situation? What would you do to save the business that you started with a lot of passion? There were many businesses which closed during the pandemic because sustainability was a challenge. But I would want to acknowledge that we had the right resilience, we had the right um, trajectory in terms of how we're going to grow this. We had the patience, we had the bootstrap mentality to ensure that we're able to sustain. We never cut salaries for any of our employees, not even one day. They all got paid, and we still were managing with whatever difficulty that we had. So, the moral of the story here is that come what may, we are leaders. I imagine myself, if I'm not able to hold my team together, how am I going to pay their salaries? So we did what we had to do, and we were able to do all this. So the second business that me and my partner started was a digital company. Again, this was just for fun that we did, and then we realized that we should do something which sort of connects the world with something which is the World Wide Web. So we looked at that as an opportunity and thought this might be the best way to create a business requirement. So we started a digital company. Again, the digital company is not like the run in the mill one. So we do mostly and return on investment driven kind of marketing and strategy. So that's where we started this company. So it's a tech enabled gamified company. What I wanted to also tell students here is, if you want to also learn how to do business, you have to also learn to do internship in places where you think you understand the nuances of business before you start your own. So pick a startup where you can work as an intern, go there, understand. That will also give you a lot of heads up in terms of how you want to go forward. But I'm telling you, ladies, today, it is just not an idea, but it is also the way you conduct yourself, the way you take it forward, the vision that you have, which will make you larger than your life. And that is something which is important. Whether I work in a small organization, and identify, do I have the potential? Yes, you have to identify that and then move ahead. Or do you think I can start because I have a backup of my parents or family members that who supporting your idea and they think and they believe in you? Please go ahead. The third, of course, is if you want to try, go ahead, work with somebody, identify a 50-50 partner who can be, a part of your game plan and who believes completely in your vision, and they become your partner. So, with that, I would want to go to the next slide. Yes, sky is the limit, go for it. So again, this is a picture of mine. I really like to click such pictures because I believe, I sort of dream that this is what I have to do, and then things do happen. On a positive note, it did happen. So today, when I stand here saying that I'm not a unicorn or something, but I'm successful in my own way, and that's what makes me happy today. When I wake up in the morning, I know that I have a responsibility. I have a responsibility to create a business with the future leaders. I am responsible to ensure that my team gets paid very well. I'm responsible that my clients are happy. I'm also responsible that I'm able to give value to my clients and enhance their business. So that is where things make um, very different for me when I wake up. Next slide, please. So entrepreneurship is neither a science nor an art, it is a practice. So you got to practice, you got to feel, you got to do it right every time that you do. If you go wrong, doesn't matter, fall back and then again jump back. So journey into entrepreneurship is your next, it is you, and it is in your hands, it's the next chapter in your life and you are the catalyst for that. So go ahead and do what you think is the best. Lastly, I want to touch upon two three things. As a division in a college, entrepreneurship cell is given the last preference, but I think today things are changing and most of them are actually looking at entrepreneurship cell to be the empowering cell for people who want to make their idea to ideation to take wings. So be a part of this entrepreneurship cell to understand, connect with your LMs, connect with people who have done things successfully in their own way, and then firm your ideas, make your ideas larger than life, and see what you can do today. So that is way you can really conquer the world with your vision, wisdom, and of course the zeal. Lastly, there are many institutions which teaches entrepreneurship, but I would say that the institutions only aid and help you to reassure what you are doing is right by scientific stories or case studies that have been done in the past. But a true entrepreneur learns it with their own self. And I always tell this to my partner, saying that we have done executive MBA in the last 2 years or last 3 years because we've learned a lot by being in business. So it's about a practice. It is about how you do, how you handle situations, how do you talk to people, how do you ensure that you are safe at the end of the thing, how you're doing ethical business. These are all things that is something which nobody can teach, but you have to feel, you have to do it right, and you have to do it right every time that you do. With that, I end, and I'm really very happy to be here this morning, and I'm hoping that most of you, are looking forward to taking this journey as a part of your life in few years.
Thank you so much for the inspiring and informative session, ma'am. So, with your kind consent, can we now move on forward to the Q&A session, ma'am?
Sure,
Yes,
more
ma'am.
than
So,
happy.
first question, please. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. First question, please. Okay, ma'am. So, could you please elaborate on your surreal moment of being featured in the 100 MSME inspirational stories released by our Honorable Minister, Mr. Nitin Gadkari?
Well, this happened just at the beginning of the pandemic. Okay. It was on a day before my birthday. I was really very excited when I heard that I've been selected in that. The reason why I would say again, here, there are many people who have done businesses. Many people, like among the 100, you can imagine the number of applications. But the thing that happened here was women in real estate was very unique, and I pitched for it. And I felt that very, very few women are there in real estate. And that's how we got this. So it was a really a different moment for me. I never expected that I would be chosen amongst the many. But yes, even now it's a very, very happy and a joyous moment that, but I couldn't really go out and spend because of the pandemic. I couldn't go out and exuberate my joy that I had this.
Next question, please. Okay. So, how has your love for technology shaped out your career, ma'am?
Yes, see, I've always been one person who had the curiosity to know what is behind a technology, or what is behind a phone, or what is behind, whatever tech things. So, though I started, my education was mostly in tech space, but the way technologies change, what I learned some 30 years ago is very different from what it is today. So what made it different is the ease of understanding, the ease of things that were very, very challenging is something which I was intrigued by. And so I always looked at where can I be that person who's supporting tech, yet at the same time, use that tech as a part of my business. And so that's how we started looking at things. I wouldn't say I'm a hands-on tech person, but I think I'm a minds-on tech person. So my mind is all the time on learning something new, and I always look at new gadgets as to how I can learn. And I don't go to somebody to learn; I learn it by myself. I'm a self learner in these areas, and if I don't know, I probably ask them. But yeah, I love technology, and I'm not a laggard. So
Yeah. So next question, please. So, ma'am, how was your experience in setting up EduCity in Chennai?
Oh, wow, this is a great experience. Actually, just before joining this company, I was in the US. And when I worked there in the US for the last 10 years prior to joining this company, one thing that I learned there was everybody would do their work and they were to the point. And there's a lot that came from how they learned in their education. So when we speak, when we ask a question, also, I find that we really ask a long question, but the point is that when you ask a question, it should be simple, and it's something that you learn while you're working, outside your country, or when you work with different nationalities. So the 10 years that I worked here, or 8 years that I worked in full time, I always found that we were very very smart, but we did not know how to communicate. So that is one thing which always nagged me, because even I didn't learn how to communicate, and I learned it over the years that I worked. Okay, how can I make my question very simple yet at the same time palatable, and get the answer for that? So given that, and I thought, how can I be the catalyst or the person who can change what it is to create an educational institution where we are thinking differently? Like, I don't know if you remember seeing this movie Three Idiots, right? In the end, that person goes to a place where he wanted to create everything which is so hands on and so realistic. So I was thinking, if somebody gave me an opportunity, I should create that. But yes, I didn't create a university like that, but in a way that when we had our chairman of the company in this particular EduCity project, just gave a complete hands-off approach to me, and he said, "It's yours. Build the way you should, and create something unique, create some difference." So we did a lot of those kind of institutions which were different. We went to many countries to identify who are these different people who could come and set up their institution framework here. And so that was the good thing. And we also went in to look for funding at that time. And we did got get the LOI, and we were working towards that. So the moment that the thing to do things differently, it sort of is bestowed on you, right? Then world is the limit. You could go anywhere and get these things and get things done. But there are things like financials, operational, statutory. These are things that play a major role in somebody coming to India and setting up. So the opportunity for me here was, again, as a business head for that center. We were able to create something very unique, very different. In fact, the college that we started in architecture had 7 state ranks in the first year of its graduation. So I would call that as a success. I won't say anything else. Then we had a different kind of music college. We had a school which is for first generation learners. So we did everything that's possible to make things different there. And that's a great experience for me. I've never done that before. Like I said, you don't come born with certain things, you learn in the process, and then when you do things differently, then you notice.
Next question, please. What are the business tactics small scale businesses can actually draw from corporate giants and vice versa, ma'am?
A very brilliant question, and I ask this question always to myself, and I
Yes.
tell this to people also, saying that you learn good practices from larger corporates, incorporate that in your businesses to make sure that you are, you know, you are resilient. You are able to take this knowledge that you've gained from larger companies and make it into smaller bite-sized, deliverables for yourself. So you're all the time, in a right path. When you have growth, you don't have to worry. You can easily expand this algorithm, whatever you're doing. A small thing like, most of them never bother about my customer. I mean, customer is the king, right? So most of them don't bother. So I used one of those techniques that we did in large companies. It was expensive, but we said, let's do that. We did invest in a CRM software wherein we're able to communicate to our customers. We still do communicate, and there's a very important point to connect, is that you should know your customer better. So one of the things that large corporates do also is they always are connected with the customer, and in a small business, because of the value size and all that, they tend to forget. So we imbibe that kind of learning from there into a smaller business. And similarly, for a bigger company, is the agility that a small business has should be something that they should also learn, because in a small business, you're able to think on the fly, and you're able to generally take decisions. So I believe that entrepreneurs is something that you have to grow in large companies. So you should have a bend of an entrepreneur, but working with a corporate makes it an entrepreneur. So you are not pushed, but you know your responsibility. An entrepreneur is not told what he or she should do. They do it because it is theirs. Similarly, corporate companies should encourage entrepreneurs in their company so that they're able to see growth. They're able to give them the right kind of share when they need to be.
That was a great answer, ma'am. Thank you so much. So now we'll be concluding the session with the last question for the day. The last question, please. Yes, ma'am. The final question is: at what point does an entrepreneur become truly successful in what they undertake?
Difficult question. We don't know when we come out of that, and we cannot call it a success. A success is something that you want to relinquish yourself out of, what your being is. So I believe that in case I have to relinquish to be an entrepreneur, it's only a retirement. Even when I'm retired, I still would think that, what can I do lying down here, or what can I do with my mobility. So those are things that is, I can't say. I So success is an attribute. Okay. You can be successful in the smallest money that you make, or you can make millions and be successful. So it's just an attribute. To me, I feel I'm successful even if I'm not a millionaire. That way, that's an attribute. I'm successful if I'm able to solve somebody else's problem with my solution. I'm successful if I'm able to communicate the right kind of ethics that I have in my business with my customers and still be able to garner their interest to work with me. That's what is success.
Thank you for giving a amazing insight into what an entrepreneur must undertake in order to be successful in their plan. So, thank you, ma'am. This will be the end of the session. Now, I would like to call upon our joint e-leader for self-supporting departments, Lavanya VD, to propose the vote of thanks.
Good morning, ma'am. On behalf of Entrepreneurship Cell of Ethiraj College for Women, it's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. I would like to express my deep sense of gratitude to Ms.Priya Gautham, Deputy Director, CMO, and partner at Two Trees and Tritium Business Solutions, Virginia Tech, and 3i Infotech for giving an excellent coverage on the topic higher education, the rootstock of women empowerment and entrepreneurship. Thank you, ma'am, for sharing upon the purpose of your mission to inspire and prepare students to turn their ideas into actions. Thank you, ma'am, for also throwing light on the disruptions in learning and how entrepreneurs are the creator, the builder, and the operator by illustrating few success stories. I thank you once again, ma'am, for taking time in addressing and enriching our students. I would like to express my sincere thanks to everyone who had joined us today. A bulletin announcement to all the students out there that e-certificates will be provided to the students who attend both the sessions. For day 2 session, we have yet another eminent speaker, Ms. Sudha Sudip, Strategic Advisor, Beyond Education and Managing Director at University of Twente's India office, who is a first-gen women entrepreneur, passionate about every India student right to education at the same levels. Before we end the webinar, I request the student to fill the G form link that has been posted in the description box within 10 minutes. Thank you.